All right, it's good to be with you again on Shepherd Daily. My name is Ben Dankaka. On Shepherd Daily, we build leaders through access to accurate information. It is my desire that you and I will become the leaders we were created to be. Today, we'll be talking about the core values of great leaders. What exactly are the key qualities that makes great leadership? Now, to answer this question, we'll have to first of all answer three questions. Now, the first question we'll answer is, what do leaders perform? The second question we'll answer is, what do leaders portray? And then the third question, which will uncover the big answer we're looking for, is, what do leaders possess? So you can see we'll be dealing with three P's. The first P is performance. In other words, what do leaders do? The second P is, what do leaders portray? In other words, it means, what do leaders depict? What do they show to us? And then the last P is, what do leaders possess? In other words, what do they have inside? So you can see the first two questions has to do with the things that we see about leaders. And the last question is about what is truly inside of the leader. You see, most times we focus on the first two. Most times we identify leaders by what they perform and by what they portray. So now talking about the first question, what do leaders perform? Usually, leaders all over the world, great leaders, regardless of the field of interest, usually perform five basic things. There are five basic things we see in great leaders that make us identify them or recognize them as outstanding. The number one thing among the five things that they perform is what? Inspiration. Inspire. Great leaders inspire others. And that is what we see. We identify the leaders in our society by the way they inspire others. In other words, they make people follow them. They make people want to be like them. When we see individuals who make others follow them or make others want to do the things that they do, we know that they are inspiring others, and then we begin to recognize them as leaders. Now, the second thing that leaders do is influence. So that means they do not only inspire others, but they also determine their decisions, their choices, and so they influence them. So when we see someone who is inspirational, who inspires, or someone who has influence, will begin to recognize that person as a leader. Now, the third thing that all great leaders do is serve. All great leaders serve. The way you serve is what distinguishes you from others. So, great leaders, regardless of the field that you can ever think of, are great servants. They serve others with their ideas, with their skills. They serve others with their hands, with whatever potential that they have inside of them. They serve. So it is that service that we see. When we think of someone like Mother Teresa, what we think of is the service that she did to humanity. When we think of Nelson Mandela, we think of the service. We recognize individuals like Nelson Mandela by the way they serve others. So it is their service that we usually celebrate that makes us recognize them. We talk of Steve Jobs, not because he was tall, not because he was good looking, but because of the service that he rendered to humanity, because of his innovations. Those innovations were what he served to humanity. The next thing that leaders perform is rule. By rule, I mean dominion. They usually dominate a certain area. So when we see somebody's name coming up in a particular field, we say, wow, this person is a leader. By ruling, we are also talking about control. When we see individuals exercising control in a given area, that means they are ruling. So we begin to recognize those individuals as leaders. Now, the next thing is that we see achievements. When we see a person's achievements, we recognize that person as a leader. So let me go through the list again. The first 5 things that make us recognize individuals as leaders is: number 1, they inspire; number 2, they influence; number 3, they serve; and number 4, they rule; and lastly, number 5, they what? They achieve. These are the things that we usually celebrate on TV. These are the things we usually celebrate in the media. We celebrate these 5 things that individuals do. And because this is what we celebrate, people usually think that leadership is basically about these 5 things. So somebody will wake up one day and say, wow, I want to inspire people like Nelson Mandela did. I want to serve people like Mother Teresa did. I want to achieve great things like Steve Jobs did. I want to dominate. I want to rule in the music industry like Michael Jackson did. Now, all of these things are the things that eventually make many people fail to become great leaders. Because we are focused on these areas, we think that it is all about these areas, not knowing that it is the byproduct of the core values of those leaders. So most leadership books, most leadership articles usually talk about these 5 key areas, thinking that these are the things that will make people become great leaders. No, this is what happens when we do certain things and become great leaders. Now, the next question is what? What do great leaders portray? Now, this is very tricky, because what great leaders portray, what they show, what they depict, is actually important, because these are the things that usually lead to the performance, but they are actually not the core values of those great leaders. Now, there are also 5 things that great leaders depict, 5 things that great leaders portray. Let me mention them. Trust. Great leaders show trust, and it is that trust that they show that inspires people. The trust that great leaders depict, show in whatever thing they are doing. The trust, the faithfulness that they show in whatever thing they are doing is what inspires others to follow them. You cannot be inspired by someone that you do not trust. It is when you trust someone that you will be inspired to follow that person. So what they do depict, they portray, is actually trust. It is trust that makes them become inspirational. Now, the next thing they portray is what? Charisma. Yes, great leaders, regardless of the field of interest, usually have lots of charisma. And that charisma is what makes them influential. If you take a good look at politicians, if you take a good look at religious leaders, you realize that they show so much charisma in whatever thing they are doing. In most cases, it is that charisma that draws people to them and eventually makes them influential, or makes them influence the lives of other people. Now, the next thing that great leaders usually depict, is humility in whatever cause they are pursuing. Humility is what eventually leads them to serve. You cannot serve people if you are not humble. It is humility that makes great leaders serve. For you to serve in any field of influence, you must have a certain level of humility. And that humility that you show is what enables you to serve. If Jesus did not humble himself, he wouldn't have been able to serve. So true greatness comes when individuals depict humility, show humility, and that humility is what gives them the strength to serve others. Now, the next thing they do, they depict, the next thing they show is wisdom. It is wisdom that enables you to rule. If you are not knowledgeable, if you are not wise in a certain area, it will be difficult for you to have dominance in that area. So the wisdom that they show, for instance, Solomon became wise before he was able to rule effectively in his kingdom. So it is wisdom that gives you the knowledge, that gives you that power to rule. When you are wise in your field of influence, it means you are knowledgeable in that area. The wisdom that you have is what will give you dominance. It is what will enable you to control that field, that industry. So the ability to rule, to dominate doesn't just come. It is a byproduct of the wisdom, of the knowledge of that leader. The next thing that leaders portray, show, is what? Single-mindedness. Leaders are usually focused on a particular agenda, on a particular thing that they are pursuing. It is that focus that leads them to achievement. Achievement comes when you've arrived a certain destination. We experience achievement when we arrive a certain destination. That arrival can only be possible when we are focused. So what leaders show, what they portray, what? Focus. It is focus that enables them to get to that destination. We might decide to end here and say that all that leaders need is to show trust, to show charisma, show humility, to show wisdom, and then focus. And once you have these 5 qualities, then you are on your way to becoming a leader. So for most people, they end their journey here. Once they are able to answer the question, what do great leaders perform? And what do great leaders portray? They feel that this is all that they need in order to become great leaders. And this is why I said earlier that the question, what do great leaders portray, can be tricky. Most people end up here. But in order for us to really find out the core values of great leaders, to find out what truly makes them great, we must answer the question, what do great leaders possess? And that will be the focus of my next video. Make sure you don't miss it. And that's it on this edition of Shepherd Daily. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, share, comment. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, don't forget to press that subscribe button. See you.